Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special deep dive into Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We are Castles, Capes, and Clones, where we discuss everything in the Disney universe. If you haven't already, we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel, hit that bell for notifications, and do like this post, as it really helps your favorite content creators know that you appreciate them, and we in turn appreciate that. So, anyway, uh, let's get into this conversation. But before we do that, make sure that you have watched the film because Rich and Tom did their first impressions, which was a non-spoiler review. And you can, if you haven't seen the film, go check that out, and then come back after you've checked out the film. Otherwise, if you have seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then stay tuned because we will be talking about all things Shang-Chi. All right. So why don't we go around and give your impressions of the film? Maybe I should start because
So
I
you're the
was
one.
not under. Yeah, I was a.
If people are
So
coming from our video, they've already seen kind of our long,
Yeah,
our long-winded, brief
right.
yeah,
thoughts.
I really loved the film. I was excited to see it, but honestly, when they first announced it, I was like, okay, Shang-Chi, I wonder how they're going to do it because he's such a interesting character that started off in the 1970s and, had very stereotypical kung fu. He was a master of kung fu, which he still is, but now he looks cooler. And I just really loved this film. Like, I just thought that it was really good. Yes, are there any issues? Of course, with any film there are, but overall, I thought it was a great origin story. I thought that it does what Marvel does best. This is what I put in the Facebook post. It has the great action sequences and mixed with great comedy. It's got compelling heroes and complex villains. And the origin story I thought was a great one. And I'm excited to see more of Shang-Chi in the future.
yeah.
All right.
Yes to all that.
Ditto and done.
Anybody else want to share? I know that you guys already had given your impressions, but do you have anything else you want to share around it?
After sitting with it for a couple of days, everything I said in our original video, it still stands. Like, it's not just a great Marvel movie, but it's a great like martial arts movie,
Yeah,
Yes.
and a great way. It brings the like the martial arts kind of genre and also the sub genre of that, the wushu kind of martial arts movie, into the Marvel universe without overly playing to both those
Mm-hmm.
genres, right? It's kind of the way that a lot of the other Marvel movies do things, like espionage movies or comedies. Like, they bring it into the Marvel universe, make it a Marvel thing, but it's still very much a different genre-y kind of film. Like, Winter Soldier, is your kind of spy thriller espionage thing.
Right.
Ant-Man's your kind of comedy heist movie, but they all fit together. And now this Shang-Chi brings the martial arts genre, and a lot of the Asian culture around it, along with that mystical version of it, which is the wushu kind of stuff, into the Marvel universe and Marvelizes it. So it's like it's consumer friendly to the masses,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But they do it well, like super well.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So, I've been wrestling with, like, where does this fall into my if I had to rank things.
Right. I know.
and it's hard, but it's easily top 10,
Yeah.
uh, maybe top 5. Like
I have these movies that are all kind of like equal.
Yeah.
And then it's so hard because it's like, okay, you know,
7 of you
this
get the
could be
bronze
six,
medal.
seven, eight, but it's really all just six.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, a lot of it has to do with there's so many of them now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, for me, I honestly think it's definitely in my top 10 somewhere for all the Marvel movies. Like it's, I mean, again, I'm kind of repeating what I said in our first, quick interview.
Yeah.
Um, but I had like it wasn't that I had low expectations. It's more like the trailer didn't hype me up. Like I wasn't like, yeah, here we go. Like compared to, the other trailers for other things, like Endgame and like, and Civil War and all those got me excited. This one didn't get. I mean, I'm still like, yeah, I want to see it, but I wasn't like super super excited for it because I had this kind of like preconceived notion that it would maybe be one of we have those the Marvel movies where we're like, okay, well, it was okay. The Marvel movies that are just kind of fine. That's what
Iron
I
Man
had a
2.
feeling. Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought these would be. Like I mean, just to give an example, like Thor: Dark World. I know a lot of people just kind of skip that one,
Hmm.
even though there's great stuff in it. People like kind of view that one as like, eh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that's what this would be, but no, it blew me away, and I'm still thinking about a lot of the visuals, especially one joke in particular. I'm still thinking about, which is the I like your spike face. I still think about that one little moment, which I love. So
Hmm.
no, I loved it. It was, yeah, it's definitely in my top 10 for sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him because he's a great character as well as the other characters. I know I'm jumping ahead, but I want to see where this goes, especially that very last post credit scene. Like I want to know where it goes from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into that for
Yeah.
sure. So I think that a lot of people are hesitant about the film because we've had like 10 years of, or more, a little more than 10 years of heroes that people know or,
Mm.
that have invested in. And then, you have this one hero that people don't know a lot about. I think that a lot of people kind of knew, Doctor Strange and Ant-Man, even though they might not have known a lot about them. But Shang-Chi is one of those characters that in the Marvel universe that is more obscure, even though he has been around since the 1970s. So I think a lot. In fact, I was talking to somebody and he said, well, like I'm kind of hesitant because I just don't know if I want to invest, you know, into another character. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh no, 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 you have to go see this because
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. And just it's funny because I went to go see this movie with my mom and I was like, oh my God, she's probably not going to enjoy the film. She's just going to go with me. And I was, to my surprise, my mom was the entire movie literally going, oh my God, wow, oh my God, wow. And then at the end, she clapped. I usually when we watch a Marvel movie, she's like, I didn't understand what happened, but this one she loved it, and she just thought it was great. She thought that the kind of wushu kung fu elements of the film were beautiful, which they
Hmm.
were. I thought that I love that kind of, it's like a ballet almost, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of martial arts that I really love, is that kind of ballet looking type mystical kung fu. It's just really beautiful.
I mean,
Yeah.
it harkens back to like again those martial arts movies of like the 70s, right? I mean that's
Mhm.
I mean if you look at the origin of Shang-Chi as a character and especially in the 70s, I mean it's pretty much like the most stereotypical kind of thing where they basically wanted Bruce Lee in the
Yeah,
in a Marvel comic, right?
yeah.
Um, and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't surprise me because I think it's relatable to people who probably watched those movies when they were younger, right? So in the 70s and stuff like,
Mhm.
you know, um, so you know, I and it doesn't it makes sense because a lot of the stunt team are the JC stunt team was the Jackie Chan
Yeah.
stunt team, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in there. So you know, it 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 does well in reminding you of what those movies were in the 70s, but bringing it to the 2020s.
Mhm.
Just saying that sounded so weird.
What was the
2020s.
film that you guys were talking about that said you said that it didn't have as good martial arts? Was that Snake Eyes?
Yes,
I
that's what I was talking about. Like
Yeah,
didn't get to see it,
my one of my friends was talking. We were talking about like Black Widow and you know the movies that came out that we've seen in theaters, and it's like very little, right?
yeah.
For me, it's just been Black Widow, and it's been Black Widow's Suicide Squad and this movie, the only movies I've seen in theaters this year. And we're talking about like how, um, you know, Black Widow brought us, you know, Elena and and like, new characters, but like you know that the action in that movie felt more believable. And we were talking about Snake Eyes because I wanted to see it, and he's like, "Don't."
Yeah. Oh,
He
really?
pretty much says like the as because I go, look, it's not Snake Eyes' story that I know, and it's totally not like it's its own thing. But I'm like, I said maybe I'll just approach it as watching an action film. He's like, don't even as an action film. It's not that great. And like,
wow.
because you know it's
Wow.
because I go, is it similar to Iron Fist and how they film those action sequences? Because we all know that dude who plays Iron Fist doesn't know anything about fighting,
Right.
and so they
Yeah.
filmed it in a way that's make it you can tell that it's just not right. But when you look at like Black Widow, you believe that Scarlett Johansson and Florence
Had to
Pugh and all
do all
them
this stuff.
can fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but in Snake Eyes, Henry Golding
Just then.
can't,
Yeah.
and it's very apparent. And they are using stunt team and other actors that are like super into martial arts, so it's even more pronounced that it's like and he's like it's not even for that it's not even good. The choreography and whatever isn't.
Yeah.
In
I'm
Shang-Chi,
sure that they hired.
none of them knew. Like
Yeah.
Simu didn't know anything. Menger Zhang know anything. Probably only one was maybe Tony Leung, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But you believe it. Like they trained obviously.
And Michelle Yeoh.
Well, yeah, Michelle. Well,
Yeah.
there was no question. Like, that's the thing. It's like no question that she obviously
Yeah.
knows her stuff. Um, but like you know, the brother and Shang-Chi and Zhao Ling, you buy that they are of this family that just knows how to fight
Oh,
people,
totally. Totally.
right? But yeah, and it's just probably some of the I would say if I was to rank action Marvel films, it's the number one action one.
Hmm.
Like there's no
Yeah.
doubt. Like the fighting in this one is super high above everything else that we've seen so far.
What was your favorite battle in the film?
I I hmm.
I mean, I I mean, it's hard because there's a lot of great ones. I mean, obviously, like the end battle is amazing, but
Yeah.
I really loved just how how they both met. Because it was very much like a dance, and you could tell that they were connecting with each other at the same
Hmm.
time. because he has the 10 rings and he has all this power, but you could tell there's this intrigue with him because she's besting him pretty much.
Yeah.
If I had to, like, gun to my head, like which one, I'd say that one because I wasn't expecting it to go that way. As short as that sequence was, which is pretty much, it's pretty much like How I Met Your Father, you know, but in this beautifully choreographed uh duel, pretty much, where they're at first he's trying to hurt her because she's in his way,
Yeah.
but it changes to this dynamic where they're pretty much falling in love with each other in that moment, which I thought was just beautiful. So, and just how she keeps um you know just avoiding his most of his attacks, and how she's just pretty much flowing with the elements, so to speak. That would be my pick personally.
Yeah.
It was
How about
Yeah.
you?
it was flirt fighting.
Yeah, flirt fighting. Yeah.
How
Um,
about, yeah. Go ahead.
I you know I, as much as it played in the trailers, the bus scene, the version you see in the theater because it's longer, obviously.
Uh huh.
That because it set the tone for what this film was going to be, but also, there was very much an homage to Jackie Chan movies.
Hmm.
Out of all the fight scenes, that one felt very Jackie Chan to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's awesome choreography, it's awesome action, and there's comedy, and that's the
Hmm.
movie.
That's exactly a Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. One of the best things about the Jackie Chan films was that he actually got hurt, like
Oh
in the
yeah.
fights, like,
All the
and
time.
yeah, and I'm not, on top of him actually getting hurt because he was a crazy perfectionist when it came to choreographing, getting those fights perfect because the studios backed him. But just
Right.
like in the stories, like he'd get hit and he would actually react in the moment, and we got that in this, which I loved. The characters don't really act like they're invincible. They don't act like getting hit in the face doesn't hurt, like in so many other movies where they don't really have a reaction. So
Yeah.
that one especially, because he was getting hit and he was reacting to actually getting punched in the face and in the chest. You don't
Mm-hmm.
really see that. It was a nice, yeah, it was a total beautiful homage to Jackie Chan, which I mean the whole movie is like that.
Yeah.
So it's just, it was so refreshing to see fights done right, after so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to this style.
The bus battle definitely was my favorite.
Yeah.
Just because I love the Jackie Chan films, and it's exactly what you were saying. Is that it reminded me of Jackie Chan, and like especially when he swings out of the bus and tries
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
into the doors, and he like smacks against the doors.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's
"Oh, open
very
the doors!"
slapstick. Yeah.
Right. Such a good use of an enclosed space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, from the get go, I was just like, all right, I'm in. This is.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of wish. I mean, they had to do something for the trailers, but I wish some of the trailers didn't show as much as
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
did because that fight scene, like I said, like I love it, and it definitely sets a tone for that movie. But I mean, it's hard to choose. Like they're
Right.
all
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
and they're all great for their own specific reasons,
Yes.
right? So
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some of the characters that were in this movie. Obviously, let's go ahead and start off with Shang-Chi. Did we think that Simu Liu was a good choice for him? And just in general, like, what did you think about Shang-Chi? The character, not the movie. And
I
Okay,
mean,
go ahead.
I loved him. Again, like with so many people, just like, oh, I don't know if I'm up to, getting to know a brand new character when we're already so used to the ones that we've known for a little over a decade now. No, he's great. Um, I'm I know again repeating myself, but I think he brings a really great dynamic and will to I mean I know he interacts with a couple of other characters, that
Mhm.
we've been used to, which is wonderful, as little as we got. But no, he's great. He's funny. He has this like self-awareness of himself where
Yeah,
yeah, like he knows he's a good fighter, but he's not cocky about it. Like he's not full of himself.
Yeah.
right.
Like he knows who he is. And I just I now I'm back to that point where I'm like, "Oh, I really can't wait to see where this character goes now in the future. Like when are we going to see him again?" Um he's I love him personally. Like after the movie, I went on Instagram and I started following everyone, like the entire cast, like as many
Oh
as I
yeah.
could. So
Right.
I just go through their old stuff of all the stuff like during production and seeing their training and whatnot. No, it's I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. He's a wonderful addition.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, and just like the legend goes that Simu Liu had on Twitter said something like Shang-Chi Marvel, let's do this, or something similar to that. And
Yeah.
then he ended up getting cast, which was awesome. And at first I was like, oh, well, I mean, did they do it because of that? Or did they see something in him? But I definitely think that they saw something in him. It wasn't just that tweet, but
Yeah.
they saw, the potential for Shang-Chi. And I think, well, like you said, perfect casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about like, oh, he's just a normal looking dude. I'm like, I think that's the point,
That's, yeah,
That's the
that's
right?
point.
exactly what.
Yeah.
I'm
What,
like,
what do they want him to look like, the 1970s version?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, like when it's easy to sit there and go like the Chris's are like movie stars, but like
Hmm.
look at Chris Pratt. He came from
Yeah.
Yeah.
like his character in what was it Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
You
which
don't
I
you,
was,
you
which I'm
didn't
a fan of.
you don't watch that and be like this dude action
I
hero.
rem-
Yeah.
I okay, so I remember when James Gunn cast him, Chris Pratt, and I was watching. I started watching Parks and Recreation back when it was airing, and I was like, huh?
Yeah. I
I was
know.
like, I was like
Right?
the funny fat guy from Parks and
Yeah,
Recreation
exactly.
is going to be in
The
a Marvel movie, but he's, we
the
all
chubby
know he's
dude?
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, just like, and he's great. No, but it's for Shang-Chi. He's pitch perfect casting.
Yeah. I mean and the character itself is I mean to me it's like Luke Skywalker, right? It's
Yeah,
it's all about he's it's all about his family, and he had to fight his sister, but he's like I don't want to fight you and blah blah
yeah,
blah blah blah. But and like he while he came to realization that he has to kill his father,
hmm,
he doesn't go through with it because in the end he's like I can't kill my father. It's my
yeah,
father, and like it's and I guess obviously we're gonna talk about Wenwu, but like he might be my favorite villain now because
Mhm.
of this.
yeah.
But yeah, like Shang-Chi, like I love the fact that he's an Asian American, even
Hmm.
though
Yeah.
even though Simu is an Asian Canadian.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like they've been westernized. Like grew up here,
Yeah.
and they portray it well. It was
Mhm.
very relatable as obviously an Asian who grew up here. And I like the fact that they carry that throughout the whole movie. Like it's not like he
Hmm.
changed. He's still
Yeah.
he's still that guy. Like I
Yeah.
love that post credit scene or the mid credit scene where there's like when like again, I mean spoilers whatever. When Wong's like you let's get some rest. They're
Right.
like we could or
Or yeah.
Dot dot dot.
like
Yeah, I love the fact that they have that kind of fun sensibility to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. So
Um, Speaking of fun sensibility, let's move on to Katie, played by the great Aquafina,
Mm.
who's literally in every Asian American film, and for great reasons.
it's like her and
Uh,
Ronnie Chang.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Rodney Chang is another one that's all
I
of
did
this.
not know he was going to be in this movie, and I'm so happy that he was.
You know, I saw that he was, but who was he in the film?
He's a guy that when they went to the fighting ring to see his sister, he's a
Oh,
guy
okay, yeah,
who's
yeah.
he's
He's the
like
guy that,
he's like you're next, go up.
Yeah.
He's like
yeah. See,
he's like
that's why
I speak ABC.
I know because his hair was a different
Yeah,
color. No,
because I had to double. I'm like, that guy looks like, and then he starts
Rodney
speaking.
Chang.
And I'm like, oh my god, it is.
Yeah, I'm so like you could have glasses on and I would not know who you were, even though I might have known you all of your life.
That's why Clark Kent works.
You know,
Yeah.
once you put something that I'm not used to you wearing or, you know, whatever, I can't recognize you. It's so funny. Like, I'm just completely useless in that way.
Nice.
But yeah, now that you say it, I'm like, okay, yeah, 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 yeah. Now that makes sense. Um, anyway, back to Aquafina and Katie, the character Katie. What did we think of her?
She like there's another thing which I wish all everything surrounding this movie worked the way they wanted it to, which means merchandising and all the kind of stuff. Like if it came out last year,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been holding on to her action figure
Yeah,
for months, right? But she was like in the trailers, you just like she's the best friend, doesn't know who Shang-Chi is, and like goes with him, and then her figure though was like of her with a bow and her bow and
yeah, with the
arrow
red
and the
robe.
red. And I'm like, is she? Oh, because like it could be one thing if she's just wearing the robe, like okay, she's there, but they
Mhm.
gave her a bow and arrow set.
Yeah,
So I'm like, is she gonna? Is she something? Like I literally thought that she was maybe like that kind of trope where like I'm gonna send my son off to the world and blah 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 blah, and like she was there to like watch over him,
right.
right? But that turns out that she knew all along, and she's like this awesome, like Hawkeye kind of person, right? But I like that she was not,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm kind of glad that they kept that from us because it gave a air of mystery
Yeah.
around her. Because I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, why is she in red robes and has a bow? Because in the trailers, of course, it indicates that she didn't know about Shang-Chi. And I love that whole sequence where he's like, oh, my name is Shang-Chi. Sean. Sean. Because you literally, your name is Shang. But you took the name Sean.
I like I like the line. She's like, it's like saying your name is Gina, but then you're like, hi, I'm Gina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that they explored this relationship, but it wasn't like a romantic relationship. Like
Yeah.
she wasn't the love interest, even though you can infer that maybe, but like it
God
wasn't.
damn.
That wasn't. You know,
The initial thing. Nor
yeah,
were they kind of like, she wasn't pining over him and
yeah,
he wasn't pining over her.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if they are together at the end of this movie, it just kind of feels natural.
Yeah, it didn't define her character.
Yeah.
She was literally the plucky sidekick the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was a nice change because during it, I was like, oh, I kind of hope that, I hope this doesn't turn into, oh, they just fall in love with each other. But no, it just pretty much keeps that. No, they're just really good friends and they care about each other. Like they live each other in that way. It's
Yeah.
a close friendship.
Mhm.
And you could tell, like, even like and when he steps in the fighting ring and how she like looks at him with the shirt off, she was like, all right. But it wasn't like, she was, she was like, all right, like, where's your shirt go? He's like, oh.
She didn't have
Yeah,
the Agent Carter reaction to.
yeah. No, it was a nice change. She was like, all right, yeah, let's go with his shirt off. All right, moving on. Yeah.
And she just took everything in stride.
Yeah.
And,
Just like whatever. Like again, like when they first get there, like I just love like you see all these different characters that look all scary, and this one guy has that mask that's a bunch of spikes. She just looks at him and she goes, I like your spike face. He's like, oh, thank you. Like, you're just not expecting it.
Yeah.
So she was great.
Yeah.
It's funny because she was apparently the first one cast
Yep.
in
Really?
the movie. And so you knew that Marvel wanted to go in some kind of comedic style.
Yeah.
And I think that they really, really did meld it. Like, sometimes I'm like, like I love Aquafina. Like, I think that she is great. But sometimes I'm like, is it going to be a little too much? But I thought it was just perfect. I thought that her being in the film and adding that kind of comedic value, but at the same time, she had a lot of heart. And I think that that's often what is missing from some of her characters is that heart. It's mostly laughs, and I think that differentiates her from her other roles.
Definitely.
So,
yeah, like I like that. She's wasn't like never was like really the damsel in distress, nor was she like the one who would like cower away from, like, if a fight breaks out, she's not gonna cower behind a table or whatever. Like, she's all in. So like, all right, I guess I'm learning how to shoot a bow and arrow now. And like she was like, like, battle's gonna start. She didn't like hesitate to want to join. Like, she had like, I'm gonna help my friends, right?
Yeah.
So I like that about her character, and it makes me. It's very interesting that when in the post credits or the mid credits scene, like, it's not just Shang-Chi that Wong is like, you are welcome to this world. There's like both of them are welcome to this world. How to say you're an Avenger without saying you're an Avenger, kind of thing. But like, and that's me curious. I'm like, okay, I wonder what's going to become of her. Like, what's her arc after this movie? So I'm looking forward to what that's going to be.
Me too. All right, let's move on to Zhao Ling, who's played by, I'm going to mess this name up, but Menger Zhang.
Yeah, it's Menger. From the interviews I've seen, that's what they say. So I'm like, okay. So it's very quick. It's just like Menger.
It's very interesting. I've never seen the way that Menger is with a apostrophe. So anyway, what did we think of Zhao Ling?
Again, like, I like the character because she's presented in a way you're like, okay, she's gonna be the jealous sibling who didn't get the attention, which is what the character is. It's two, like, she was a younger sibling who didn't get attention, but she's also a woman in this world, right? And I like that they meet again, and the whole, like, oh, I hate you now, brother, because you abandoned me. But like, it wasn't total hate. It was just, she's angry.
No.
Yes, but like, it's still her brother, and they're still family.
Yeah.
And she came, she still helped them. And then I love that she is now the head of the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
And like, out of anything that came out of this movie, that's also like, that's the one where I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
it didn't
where's
say,
this gonna go?
because we know Shang-Chi's coming back, that thing, but like, they do this sometimes. It's like Ant-Man will return and whatever. Like, they made a point to say the 10 rings are coming back.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
I'm like, what?
Usually they have like Shang-Chi will return and whatever. But this was the 10 rings, and what we're talking about is the end credit scene here.
Like the end credit scene.
the
Yeah.
end credit scene. Not,
Yeah.
we'll get to the mid credit in a minute, but um, yeah, the I thought it was very interesting that they said that. And do you think that she is going to become evil, like an adversary to Shang-Chi eventually, or
I don't
what do you
think
think she's going to do with the Ten Rings?
I don't think
Uh,
evil
no,
is what it
I
is.
think it'll be more gray area. Like I'm pretty sure. Like my guess is that it'll be a little bit of both. Like it'll be she'll probably do some not great things, but the motivations are going to be different. Unlike her, for like how her father treated the Ten Rings. I
Yeah.
think they'll be a little different. And going back to what Rich just said, yeah, I like that it wasn't really the typical. Oh, they didn't play too hard into the bitter sibling thing. She
Mhm.
was just simply as any sibling would in that situation. She was just hurt and angry that he left and never came back.
Yeah.
And we got enough of that. It wasn't overplayed where it's the whole movie of her being that. Like she took care of that by kicking him in the face, pretty much. Like in the when they meet for the first time after 10 years.
Yeah.
So no, I liked her a lot. But as far as a full on villain, I don't see it going that way. But I think it'll be like to make a comparison to another character we've gotten used to. I think it'll
Mhm.
maybe be something closer to Loki, where Loki has done horrible things, but
Yeah.
there's this other side of him where like he knows that the bad things he has done, he knows that they were bad, and he does change throughout time. I think it'll maybe be a different version of that, if anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, Marvel's villains get better as they're
Yeah.
going
Mhm.
to where you understand their motivations and to the point where you kind of go, eh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not totally wrong. Um,
Yeah, that were the best ones. I mean,
yeah.
I started rewatching not all the Marvel movies, but I started at Winter Soldier, and it went from there. And especially like I only saw Black Panther one time in theaters, and then I watched it again, and yeah, Killmonger is still a villain. He's still horrible,
But
but
he's
you're like,
not entirely wrong.
Like,
he's like, I get it. Like I was surprised when during his death scene, I was tearing up.
yeah.
I was like, yeah. Well, the same thing with Thanos. Like he's still a villain, still does horrible things, but he's got a point at
It's
the same
efficient.
time. Like,
Oh,
yeah, it's very efficient. Yeah.
you haven't seen What
So
If yet.
no, not yet, not yet. But
Oh,
I'll get there.
Damn you.
I'm getting there.
yeah.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Definitely watch it.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the route they may take her. She has this power now.
Like,
She has. She's building this army. I mean, why else would you build an army?
Yeah.
I
So
mean, if we wanted to expand, like when I was watching that, I'm like, what is this going to be? Is this Marvel's way of creating the Hand? Like, is she going to take it in a different route? Right? Are we going to get different characters because of this? Because it doesn't say like Shang-Chi in the Ten Rings again.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's going to be Zhao Ling leading them, and it's like, where does this lead? Like, what in my mind in the Marvel universe? I'm like, are we going to get? Because that's what Marvel Cinematic Universe does, is kind of meld different ideas because they can't bring everything to the table. Like, Civil War was not the comic version, but it took the concept of it.
hmm
So I'm like, if we're going to get like a truly Marvel Cinematic Universe where you bring in Elektra, Daredevil, Iron Fist, like,
Yeah.
and like the martial arts kind of world, like
Mhm.
having the Ten Rings become a sort of version of the Hand kind of makes sense. That's why I was looking for like little things that told me maybe that's what the route they're going.
Yeah.
But like, it I would like to see Sharon Carter versus Yao Ling. Like they're both kind of like Sharon Carter started out as a good character, and everything that
Yeah.
happened to her, you know, brought her to where she is now, and we don't know what's going to happen. We know she's got to come back because like the left it's so like open to
Yeah.
her doing something.
I wonder if Sharon Carter is connected to Zha-
Zhao Ling,
Zhao Ling. I wonder if she's connected to her.
I
Like,
mean,
I
like,
wonder if there's going to be some kind of
I mean, she's located in Asia, in
right.
Yeah.
China, right? And then Madripoor is an Asian island somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're definitely gonna cross paths if they're in this
Mhm.
kind of underground kind of organization, right?
I'm sure they will at
You
some
yeah,
know,
point.
like I think Armor Wars is where we're gonna see them,
yeah,
right? I think with Tony gone, there's like this kind of vacuum, right? Because the Ten Rings started out in Iron Man 1 as you know
the organization that kidnapped.
kidnapped him because they wanted his technology,
Yeah,
right? And now that Tony's not here, I think Armor Wars is going to be this power struggle for all of the Tony Stark weapon tech
right.
kind of stuff. And I definitely think Sharon Carter falls in there, but it could be also the Ten Rings again, you
Hmm.
know, or not. Who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get to a couple more characters before we get to Wen Wu. What did we think of Michelle Yeoh as Zhang Nan? Zhang Nan.
I it's Michelle Yeoh.
She's a treasure.
Yeah.
you know,
I think a lot of people forget that she's kind of started off in martial arts films, and so it's nice to see her back. I mean, she was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
right?
and just
I,
amazing.
the character, like, you know, I think it's appropriate because like we're saying, like how this movie kind of melds two different kind of subgenres within martial arts, like the quintessential martial arts film of like
Yeah.
Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, but also that wushu mystical aspect. If
Hmm.
Wen Wu represents the that side of martial arts,
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh and Antinan represents the wushu part, and that she brings the mysticism and the fantasy element of martial arts to the
Yes.
table, so that when we meet her, and then we go to Talo,
Yeah. Talo.
uh, and we see like Pokemon everywhere. Um, we're not. I wasn't like all of a sudden being like, this is weird. All of a sudden, like no, like we got introduced through Shang-Chi's mother, and then meeting her, we just kind of buy the fact that there is a fantasy side
Yeah.
of this. So, but I think what's interesting about her character is that she doesn't say our universe. She keeps
Yeah.
saying your universe.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? Like what universe are they from?
Right.
And that means that like Shang-Chi and Zhao Ling are of two universes.
Mhm.
So I think it opens a lot of doors into. This is why like when I say that this movie is going to like it opens the Marvel Cinematic Universe even more than I think like Doctor Strange did
Yeah.
to the mystic arts. This is now mystic and also multi-dimensional or multi-universe kind of things.
Right.
So I'm glad that this character exists, and I hope like I don't know if she'll come back for anything, but like she's still alive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I hope that she does.
And I hope there's more from that universe and like what that means. Like where do they come from?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah. I just want to see more of the giant Pokemon. I
yeah.
I just thought that I mean, somebody had compared it to Jurassic Park, which is kind of true. Like when you go
Yeah.
through that, and when they stop and see the those dragon horses, I think they're called Qilin.
Yeah, they're. I
Uh,
mean, they're all.
Yeah.
They all
they're all
are
like
from.
actual.
Yeah. When I say Pokemon, because one of them looks like Ninetales, which I guess is a was based off an actual Chinese mythological
Chinese, yeah,
Yeah.
fox horse thing.
yeah, and the foo dogs, those giant lion things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that moment when the the Qilin looks over at them, and I just thought, gosh, this feels like Jurassic Park.
It kind of does. Like the first time you see the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park,
Mm-hmm.
it's mind blowing because up to that point we've only seen kind of like that claymation stop motion
Hmm.
Yes.
version of dinosaurs, really, or like close ups or like something. But this was similar in that if you think about it, like how often do we see creatures from other kind of cultures come to life
Hmm.
in a way that's has money behind it, so he does it justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever seen any of those. Like I've seen them obviously in like animation and print, but I've never seen a live action version of those dragon lion dog things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was beautiful seeing, a live action version of it for sure. Like I was, because I've always loved, I mean, a lot of us have loved, all the artwork of those mythical creatures, and seeing them like this, especially the dragon at the end, um, it was,
Yes.
it was just, yeah, seriously. Like in our non-spoilery video, I wanted to talk about it so bad.
Because you can't talk about it without telling you what it is, but it's like, yeah.
We have, because they don't reveal. There's not a teaser of it in any of the trailers. We have no idea it's coming.
All right. I want to go on to one more character before Wenwu, and that is who was as surprised as I was, even though I was surprised that Ben Kingsley was there as Trevor Slattery,
Trevor, that's it.
who people will know from Iron Man 3 as the guy who impersonated uh, Wenwu as the Mandarin that we now know is a chicken dish. An orange chicken dish. I mean, we knew that before, but
What do you say?
I thought that line was funny.
The people are afraid of an orange or
Yeah.
something like that.
And then we saw him again in, I think this short was called Hail to the King.
Hail to the King, yeah.
Yeah, and which was on Disney Plus. It should still be on there. So if
Yeah, they
you-
just added it, I think, because I saw it in the new section.
yeah, the new section. Yeah, so definitely if you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's very funny, and all the prisoners have this respect for him for some reason, and they end up the Ten Rings organization ends up
Actually kidnapping him.
him, and it didn't dawn on me that he would actually still be in this movie. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, what did we think of? My mom was like, "Is that Gandhi?"
Well,
She's not right. She's not wrong.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
not wrong. Yeah.
So, anyway, what did we think of Ben Kingsley returning?
I mean, first of all,
Um,
it's Ben Kingsley, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it sums up with how the audience responded to seeing him.
yeah, when we were there.
It was a big universal gasp, and then everyone started laughing.
Yeah,
Just the moment he started talking, like that, I think that sums it up, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's just laughter.
for a
He's
character
just
like when
incredible.
Iron Man 3 came out, people hated not necessarily the character, but they hated that what they did to the Mandarin.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that when we saw it in the theater, Shang-Chi, like his return to the screen didn't bring like like seeing Jar Jar
Yeah.
again or something.
Yeah.
It was like a like, all right, like,
Yeah.
he's back in this movie.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
I mean, like the ramifications of it is that that whole scene where he's when he was talking about that character,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like there's the backlash against like the stereotype of that character, and then like not getting the true Mandarin. But again, the Mandarin itself is problematic,
Hmm.
and I think they
It
dealt
makes
with
sense.
it. It dealt with it in a clever and great way, so that you don't have to sit there and go, we need this stereotype Asian bad guy,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right? That's just a story. It's not a true. It's not a real thing. So that whole
Yeah.
deal with the Mandarin becomes more like, okay, that's a stupid kind of myth about the Ten Rings, but that's not the
Right.
truth, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then we can have basically Wen Wu not be held to be that character. So,
Yeah.
but I like that I like that Ben Kingsley commits to that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He totally does.
100%.
Like he's a great Academy Award winning
yes,
actor.
you've seen
Yeah.
him in a
Playing
lot of
this
dramatic
drunk
things and whatever, and then
guy.
You could tell he's having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
yeah,
I love how he has that special communication with Morris.
Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what kind of creature
He's
that
basically the voice of Morris.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were going through the forest, and he's like, "Okay, in 10 seconds, make a hard right," and he's just like so calm. He's just like,
I know.
"All right, speed up, make a left."
I I love this scene where Morris is like he's on the ground and Morris
Oh,
is
yeah.
like look thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, don't worry, I'm just acting.
And
And
then, he
then
acts
Morris,
with him.
and then Morris not just lays down but turns over.
Yeah.
So funny. Such a great character.
Yes, I love that character.
Mhm.
All right. Now let's talk about Wen Wu and Tony Leung as Wen Wu. Um, and let's just kind of start off with the beginning story, the legend of the Ten Rings. And, I thought that was cool that they started off and he was in his traditional Mandarin
Mhm.
costume. I thought that that was kind of a cool nod to a character that has been so stereotypical without actually making him the
Yeah.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
You got-
Mhm.
yeah, I like the fact that they kind of explained that whole thing. And like I said, he was, I just thought that he was a complex villain.
Mhm.
He was, and his motivation was he wanted to save his wife.
Yeah.
And, he was so struck with grief when she died that he made his children into weapons so that, they can protect themselves, or really Shang-Chi, because Zhao Ling kind of taught herself to be better than everybody else.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just thought he was just a complex villain. I thought that Tony Leung was just so good as this villain. Like he really brought. I thought that he brought. Talking about Aquafina and heart, he brought heart to this character as well.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Like
Mhm.
the trailers made him seem very much like that quintessential megalomaniac kind of
Yeah.
bad guy. Like, don't talk to me that way, boy.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a deeper thing than that. Like, as we get pieces of his story, when he talks about, when we're introduced to his wife and that whole ballet dance, you're like, okay, that's cool. But then, and then we see what happens after, and we learn that she's dead. But then, like, when he's telling the story, or when the story of like what happens after, we kind of like it buys into both his character and Shang-Chi's character that
Mm-hmm.
you know he puts back on, like like the realization that he took off those rings for that long and he was fine, and he learned that he didn't have to be who he was for thousands of years, and that the love of this woman gave him a different outlook. But then when they got
Yeah.
ripped from him, you know, uh, he goes back to his kind of old ways, but
Right.
Yeah.
not really. Now he just becomes like, well, people gonna have to pay for
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
And again, like, yeah, it's terrible, but you kind of buy it. If you lose someone that close to you and that meant so much to you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what wouldn't you do? You know what I
Right.
mean? And Tony Long in interviews have said like he didn't approach this as like, yeah, he's a villain, we know that, but he's like, I wanted to approach him as he's just a bad father,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? But he loved his wife so much, but that grief just made him a bad father, and that's kind of what he got. And like his motivations were, I need to save my wife, right?
Yeah.
You can't argue with that motivation,
Yeah.
really. Like, okay,
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Wanda, she wanted to save, Vision.
yeah,
And, we still love Wanda. And we can kind of see, even though he's got a history of being bad, you kind of understand that his motivation, or you do understand his motivation.
Yeah, there's still that humanity with him, that you're like, okay, I get where he's coming from. Yeah, I was actually, again, his death actually made me kind of sad because I felt for him. Like he wasn't motivated by anything evil. Like he just, as you said, he had this voice, was fooling him into thinking that his wife was just trapped behind there. He just wanted to get her out.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even though he loved his children, he did a lot of bad things, but they were motivated by this twisted version of love because of that grief.
Yep.
And like, as with some of the stronger other Marvel villains, like, yeah, they're still villains, but you also understand their motivations, and that always makes a stronger, more compelling villain, where they have that kind of gray area in them,
Mm-hmm.
where it makes sense. Yeah, because when in the scene after, like, right, when they're that fight scene, when they're fighting all those, all of his soldiers, pretty much just after the that club, when he shows up, there was a part of me that was kind of worried that he would be the typical mustache twirling father villain, but no,
Yeah.
he was just happy to see his his kids again. And he had this kind of proud, like, I knew they wouldn't be able to take you out, like I trained you right. We're like, okay, well, this is interesting. This is a different take. Like, good. They're still, they know how to write a really compelling villain,
Yeah.
but where their death makes you sad, because he's watching his father's soul get sucked out of him, and it's sad.
Right. And he redeems himself though at the
Yeah,
end
the very
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
by giving his son the 10 rings. And
Hmm.
uh I uh I always find it funny when people say that Marvel doesn't have great villains, because I think that they have shown us over the years
Yeah.
that they know how to make a great villain, at least in the movies.
Hmm.
I mean, they took literally a mustache twirling,
like literally.
stereotypical uh, villain and made him really complex, and
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that that was really great.
The moment that got me was when in the end fight between him and Shang-Chi, and then you know Shang-Chi is wielding his half of the ten
Yeah.
rings, and the whole like harken back to when he says like maybe one day you'll get these if you prove you're strong enough.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And at that moment, like he's like, my son is strong enough, and there's a little bit of pride in there, even though they're still
Yeah.
fighting each other.
Right.
You know, um, but the tragedy is that that voice in his head is so compelling. That grief that he has to get
Yep.
that back is so compelling that he's willing to do almost anything, and that's where he's the villain, right?
Hmm.
Because he doesn't see what his actions are doing, until the end when he
Hmm.
realizes what he's done, right? Which is again like Shang-Chi is kind of like Luke Skywalker, but I would say the way that the Clone Wars does for Anakin and humanizes Darth Vader, this is what we
Yeah.
get from
Yeah.
Wen Wu and Tony Leung from this character, and like
Yep.
I definitely stand by. I think this is my favorite villain of the
Hmm.
Marvel Cinematic Universe to date.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely up there for me. I think I kind of edge still with the Vulture, but just because Michael Keaton played him to
Oh
perfection.
yeah, he's great.
But yeah,
I mean,
but at
it's
the same
it's it's a
time,
hard. There's a lot of great villains now.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean Thanos and
Yeah. Yeah. I think both you know who my favorite is.
Killmonger, yeah,
Yeah.
all of the such a great villains, and so he's definitely up
Zemo,
there.
Zemo's
Hmm.
definitely up there. So
Yeah, Zemo, yeah, that's another one. All right, so let us get to the mid. We talked about the end credit scene.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the mid credit scene, in which we see uh, um, Shang-Chi and Katie are talking to their friends, and they're saying, "Yeah, he basically saved the universe," and they're like, "Oh yeah, thanks for making fun of us."
Yeah.
And then Wong comes in, and he's like, "Come on, come with me."
we need to save the world or
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, and he took them over to I think the library,
Hmm.
and who do we see there in holographic form, but uh, Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner, and they are all discussing the Ten Rings as a beacon. It is a beacon to something. What do we think about this scene?
There's so much in this scene. This is why, like, I think some Facebook posts where I've seen like people go like again, people are walking out before the mid credits or a post credits scene. I'm like, I can see some people going like, yeah, but sometimes I wait and it's like a nothing scene, and
Yeah,
don't really like literally both credit scenes are are like it just it tells you that there's so much more to this universe. Like it's definitely
Hmm.
worth it to stay for those two.
yeah,
But this one, there's a couple of things, right? So one is Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is in Bruce Banner form. Like this is
Yeah.
after the whole
oh
thing with the
yeah.
Hulk.
Yeah.
Boy, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
he still has his cast on too
So has his
from the
cast,
snap.
right?
Yeah.
Because in Endgame or Infinity War, he
mm-hmm.
was talking about what happened. Like, why is he in Hulk form? Is because
But
he combined the brawn with the brains, and he
yes,
just became
Oh yeah. In
Professor
Endgame.
Hulk.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
like, and it made you think, okay, that's what he's going to be from now on, right? He's
mm-hmm.
merged the two, but like you said, it's interesting because he's no longer Professor
Yeah.
Hulk. He's just Bruce Banner, you
Yeah,
Hmm.
know. So there's a story there, and I'm hoping we get that in She-Hulk,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great.
right? I mean, like, I can see monetarily why they did this,
Hmm.
because if he's going to be in She-Hulk, making Mark Ruffalo into the Hulk costs a lot. So it's easier to have him in She-Hulk as a human form, but they have to explain it in a way. But it does mean there's something that's going on over there, and it can mean a lot of things for the universe.
Yeah.
So there's that. The choice of Captain Marvel is interesting to me also. Like out of all the people you can have in there, like it almost makes more sense to have almost anyone but Captain Marvel. But like, if you're looking at someone who's like they want someone with space knowledge to make sense,
Right. Well, and they did say that the Ten Rings, one of the legends or one of the things is that he stole it from a crater, and since this is a beacon, is this a beacon to outer space?
I think that's what it alludes to. Like it's
Yeah.
my, I talked to Thom about this after our video, but like my theory is that this definitely ties into the Eternals because they've been around for thousands of years and they were created by the Celestials.
Yeah.
I think that this ties into whatever the what do they call it in the trailer, the Eternals trailer? With like we have 7 days till this happens.
The emergence.
The emergence. I think we've seen at least 2 Celestials gone. So Ego and Nowhere, right?
Right.
And the Celestials are born within planets or something like that. Like, is the Earth is Earth harboring a emerging new Celestial?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think my theory is that they're going to bring like the big Phase 5 villain might be Galactus. And that's who it's reaching out to. Because we know for thousands of years that Wenwu has the rings, but it didn't activate for him because he was not worthy of those rings.
Right.
Shang-Chi gets it, it becomes that gold color, which is all the powers of the Eternals in the trailer are that same color.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like this thing, but I'm like, okay, if the Eternals are going to deal with the Celestials, I think at some point Marvel is going to have to think we have to bring in Galactus, especially if the Fantastic Four are coming.
Yeah.
And I think this is a way to kind of bring in a better version than the Cloud version of Galactus, and actually give us Galactus and the Silver Surfer and all the other heralds and whatever. Is by this starting that storyline where it reached out to somebody, and doesn't mean we get this person in the next movie or the next couple movies. We heard about Thanos in the beginning, and it took almost 10 years to get to him.
Right, exactly.
Right, we might get hints there, here and there. We might see a surfboard, something. Right, who knows? But I think if we're going to bring in some kind of beacon like that, bring in Galactus that ties into the Fantastic Four, which we know are coming in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Right. And that, deals with like the cosmos, and that's where Captain Marvel's kind of territory is. So
yeah, for sure.
So that's my theory. My theory is Galactus.
I think that is a great theory.
Yeah, and I know I sort of said this in our quick reaction, and I said this to Rich, but out of everything especially lately in the MCU, including the shows, the whole multiverse thing, I just eat that stuff up. And especially like I remember seeing Nowhere and Guardians, and just the idea that there's these massive, powerful celestial beings out there.
Yeah,
I love that stuff so much. And the fact that we're starting to see more of it, I can't wait. And the fact I'm getting goosebumps right now, literally thinking about it. When they showed in that scene where it's a beacon and we're getting a signal out there, we don't know what it is. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like I got
Yeah.
really, really excited. I'm like, okay, now I really, really can't wait to see where this goes. And I'm as you guys know, I'm not really that familiar with the comic side of things aside from Wikipedia stuff.
Yeah.
But I know enough about Galactus that I'm like, I hope so,
Yeah.
because
I do.
that like, it's just like Thanos times a billion, pretty much. So yeah, and the same thing with the second Guardians with another Celestial that we actually got to see like interact. Ego. That stuff really fascinates me. So I'm looking forward to it very much. So yeah, that scene was great. And yeah, I mean, to me, with my limited view of the MCU and pretty much that's it. It made sense that Captain Marvel was there because that's kind of her thing. So and again, like Bruce is a character I love a lot, so it was just great to see him. But yeah, I am intrigued with he's seeing it. I was like, oh wait, yeah, he's not Professor Hulk. He's just Bruce.
Mhm.
Versus
I didn't even.
yeah,
I didn't even put it together until you guys started talking about it. So
yeah, I'm intrigued to say the least.
yeah. All right. Well, what was your favorite scene in this movie?
Hmm.
Well, mine was something we could not talk about in the first
Yeah,
video.
Yeah.
Was Shang-Chi harnessing the 10 rings to defeat the evil demon dragon thing. Like
Hmm.
we've seen, it's weird because like we've seen this kind of thing before where the hero vanquishes the dragon at the end, but like the way they filmed it and the way it was shot and the way it was framed looked so much better than anything we've seen.
yeah,
There's almost a beauty to it, an
Yeah.
yeah.
artistic beauty to the way it happened, and it turned something that could have been just a generic,
Defeat the big thing.
CGI
Yeah, yeah.
thing into something that looked amazing. I think if I was going to go with anything, that because I was not expecting it, I was like, oh man. When you first see it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna get a big
Very
defeating the big bad thing. But
right
no, it's just
without any,
yeah.
but like just the way it was defeated, um, this looked amazing to me,
Hmm.
and it elevated that kind of like that scene. So that's my favorite scene because it. I mean, a lot of things like went against what I thought was going to happen, whatever. But I
Yeah.
think as a visual scene, that definitely was like, all right, this is a great way to end this movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's for me. It's a tie between the one I mentioned earlier, my favorite fight scene, and this one because I still have that image in my head of that. Like especially not only the shots of him actually making those movements and seeing the rings move and slowly defeat the big evil dragon demon thing, but
Yeah.
also the wide shot. You could see him up top doing that, and you could see both the dragons making this beautiful spiral. Like I'm like, oh, like, and especially that the actual the good dragon. It's that's to say it without, because I couldn't say it in our quick reaction. That's the most beautiful dragon I've ever seen on film ever.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to top that. Like when it started to get its soul sucked out, if it
Right?
died, I would have cried in theater. I
Oh
would have
yeah.
Yeah.
started bawling. Yeah. So yeah, it is a tie between those two because it wasn't like a jumbled mess of a okay, we're just gonna kill the big thing. No, you could tell they wanted to make sure. Yeah.
There you go.
I might have to get my hands on
Yeah.
that.
It's really cool looking.
Yeah, like it wasn't this big mess where just a quick thing where you don't really know how it was defeated, you just know it was killed. But they
Hmm.
made it clear, like, no, this is what's happened. Like, and it was crystal clear. Yeah, it was beautiful. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite scene Well, my favorite scene, I think, is the bus scene, but I've already talked about that. Though I love when Aquafina says, "We make a great partners" or whatever at the end.
We're a great team.
Yeah.
To the garbage, was it garbage truck driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I had to pick something else, I actually loved it when they went into Talo. I love the whole sequence with when Trevor is, taking them through the forest, and then they end up in Talo, where they have all of these creatures, and that moment when the Qilin looks at them, I just thought it was one of the most beautiful things
Hmm.
I had ever seen.
And his line, what does he say? That's a weird horse,
That's,
or something like
Yeah,
oh, yeah, something like that. That's a weird horse. I love that they kept it on that horse thing,
that. Staring at him.
yeah.
but like for a
Staring at
long time,
Yeah.
like just
They're like,
enough,
we're gonna drag this.
just
out.
enough, just enough.
Yeah, and they look so real. It was
Yeah.
like my mom with the nine tails. She's like, "Oh my god, they're so cute."
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't have the heart to tell her that they're not actually real, but they look real, and
Mhm.
so I love that scene. Any closing thoughts about this film?
Go see it if you
Yeah,
haven't yet.
definitely.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable to see it in a theater, go see it in a theater. I think I can't remember. Is it after 45 days? Is this going to go on Disney Plus?
Something like
Is
that.
that the whole thing, or are they going away with that? And you're like, nah.
Yeah, I don't know. Bob Chapek called this the experiment, and Simu Liu kind of spoke out against that. That this is not an experiment; it is a Asian American film that
Mhm.
It
shouldn't be
was
treated as
it was
an
like
experiment.
two different. It was two different things. That's the only thing about that whole situation. Like, I feel like that was like however it was presented to Simu Liu, I think was taken out of context.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because the experiment wasn't the film. The experiment was a release. It was like,
Yeah.
because like the previous ones have either been on Disney Plus, like Soul,
Yeah,
or a premiere
and
like
and Black Widow.
was Black Widow also? No, it wasn't premiere. Oh, it
Yeah,
wasn't just it wasn't
Wasn't
just
it both?
on it wasn't just on Disney Plus. Soul was
yeah,
just on Disney Plus. That
Mm,
wasn't
right.
a premiere. You
yeah.
just
No, it
got it.
wasn't a premiere.
Black Widow, Raya, those were and Milan were paid. You had to pay for it
Mhm.
to
Yep.
watch it. That's what I'm saying. Like the experiment now is they're not doing either of those. They're putting it
Yeah,
in the
like
theater for X amount of
X amount
days
of times. Yeah,
and then see what happens. And I mean, the experiment worked because it's basically broken all the other 2021 movie
Yeah.
things.
yeah, it's
Breaking, I
doing
think
really
I think it's like
well.
85 million. It's at
Yeah,
Is
last
that
I
what it's
saw.
at right now? Good.
So, I mean, like, experiment, yes, but also I think it's also strength of the movie. Like,
Oh, I think so
Tenant
too.
Tenant was supposed to be that last year, and it didn't, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
And Black Widow did well as well,
Yeah,
and some other movies that did, but like, I think it's really is the movie good, right?
I
yeah.
think that the difference between this and Black Widow is that Black Widow is a known character. Like she's been
Mhm.
around for I don't know how many years, but almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years,
No,
right?
I mean
Yeah.
more than 10 years, more like 12. I don't even know what
Yeah.
anniversary it is at. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Since Iron Man 2, right?
So it's probably about 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
and this character is an unknown.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that it's doing so well is really a testament to, I think, the filmmaking and
Hmm.
the fact that it's just, with this and Crazy Rich Asians, that people are starting to watch films with Asian Americans in it, and that's a wonderful thing, obviously. You know, Rich and I can speak to being Asian American, and
What?
you know, I know that. I know, sorry, Tom.
I'm so offended.
I know, but you know, I remember when I was younger, I always thought that you know Asians were the enemy. You know, if it wasn't in like MASH or you know the Japanese in World War II or whatever, there was never really like a great character. Now we
We
did have
were
like Bruce Lee and why am I
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan, thank you, and Jet Li, and things like that. But
I mean,
uh,
even if you think about those characters, it was mostly about the action.
right,
Yeah.
it's different. It's a different kind of film.
Like it
This
took
one,
a long time for me to hear what Jet Li sounded like.
yeah,
Yeah.
because this film it's a Marvel film, and that's you know that's huge. Um,
Yeah,
you know, not to downplay any of the others that have gone before, but this is like a huge thing, and the fact that people are going to watch it is, I, I just it makes you know makes me choke up. So I love it.
hmm I guess final thoughts for me. I know there's still I'm still seeing some kind of reservations because like oh I don't really this is a brand new character, you know I don't really know much about them. I don't know if I want to invest in a brand new character I'm not familiar with. I mean, I feel like a good comparison to that is the Guardians of the Galaxy. I do know that no one knew who the heck they were.
no one
I
knew
know
who
they
they
were.
were.
They're like, who's this? Like, because everyone kind of, you know, Captain America. We all know who he is, even if you're not familiar. It's like Batman. Like we all, even if you haven't read the comics, you still know who Batman is.
Who's that?
You still know who Captain America is. You still know who the Hulk is. I mean, for the most part, you've heard those names before,
Yeah,
and the same thing goes with this. Like if you back in 2014 when Guardians came out, you're like, who the heck are these? I don't care. And now I look at them; they're huge, and they're still my favorites. Like it's treated the same way.
yeah,
He's a wonderful character, and the same goes with the other characters in the film. He is a great addition, and again, going back to what we said earlier, it really does intrigue me, as they say at the very end, the 10 rings will return, which has more than one meaning to it. So, yeah, go see it ASAP as long as you're safe. You feel safe going into the theater. Otherwise, but it is worth checking out one way or another.
Yep.
definitely.
I would also say like, but my one gripe is
Oh
that
yeah, you know what was
Oh,
your
yeah.
gripe?
my one gripe is I wish that Death Dealer and Blade Fist were, because there's a lot of emphasis in the trailers about Death Dealer,
Right.
who is like, for anyone, he's the one, I don't know, henchman guy
Yeah, he's
with
got
the
like that
with that
half
He has the
mask.
mask.
mask
Yeah.
thing, and it made it seem like he was like the guy that would be like the formidable opponent. I
Yeah,
wish
and I
there was
mean
a little bit more about
they have him in
him.
the
Yeah.
Right,
action figure
I had the
form and
figure,
pop form.
but
Mhm.
Blade Fist, who I thought was just gonna be like the human
Henchman
form,
number 3.
yeah,
Yeah.
like turned out to be not just like a generic henchman, but like a character, and I like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
character, and I'd rather know more about that guy than
Yeah. I
Death
love that
Dealer.
he was bummed that they took his car. They took my car. Like,
Right, like I was talking about it in the video with the action figures. Like I would rather, after watching the movie, I would rather have a Blade Fist figure than
Yeah.
Death Dealer.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been cool if they had Razor Fist.
Yeah.
So if anything, I wish we knew a little bit more like who Death Dealer was, because he's a character, but we just
Yeah.
don't get to know who he is. Not as much as
Yeah.
Blade Fist. And Blade Fist, you know, it's again, I think it surprised me how much that character could have just been like Thom said, like henchman number 3
Yeah.
was not, so
Mm-hmm.
that's my only gripe, is that I wish there's a little more of who Death Dealer was, or that they played up Blade Fist more in the trailers as the number 1 henchman guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I think I guess for me, I just let it go because I think they were just trying to make him into this mysterious figure that, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a make it or break it thing, but it's like I
Yeah.
just as a
nitpick.
a collector, that's
Mhm.
what my thing is. I'm like, I'd rather have the
Yeah.
Blade Fist character
Yeah.
sitting on my shelf behind me.
Yeah.
And also, like, just as of right now, I don't really take Rotten Tomatoes as anything, but like it's at a 98 audience score, 92 critic score.
Right.
Yeah. I always use. I see like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, like all the ratings, as a very, very simple guide. Like, especially like IMDb, like if you look up, top 100 movies of all time, and you look at some of the places on there, like, what's this doing up here? Like, so I always use that. Like, I always felt like word of mouth is the best way to go. It's just like, oh, did you see this movie? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. Go see it. Awesome.
Yeah, the way I look at it is
That's
like having them both in the upper, like in the 90s is
Yeah.
is kind of like a unified, like, okay, most people like this, critically and also audiences,
Yeah. Mhm.
and that usually gives it a more positive word of mouth thing than
Yeah.
say like The Last Jedi, which had like an upper critic score, low audience score,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which means that people are just like torn.
Mhm.
Right, I think people are pretty much unified that this is a good movie. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, is there anything else anybody wants to say about the movie, or did I already ask that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Never mind. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think I just asked that question. All right. Well, anyway, I hope that people enjoyed this program. Again, if you did, please subscribe to our channel, hit that bell for notifications, and do like this post, as it really does help us out. Check us out on all of our socials. Visit our website at www.castlescapesandclones.com. One day I'll update it. And anyway, with
Yeah.
that, we will see you later. Bye.
Yep. Catch you on the flip
Wow.
side.